Welcome, everyone. I'm Richard Fredrickson, and we're here at Al's Steakhouse Profiles with our Will County State's Attorney. Lisa Lass is the producer-director. She's supposed to be holding up the cue cards for me. Jim Glasgow is here, and the first question I'm going to ask him right after I do a little intro here is, how does he keep himself in such great shape? I'm sitting next to this guy. I've been in line behind him in theaters, and I've seen him without the suit coats on and the short sleeve. And so I knew that was one of the questions that you wanted me to ask him. So you just hang on, and I'll do that in a minute. But first of all, thank you for coming.
Good to be here.
It's been a busy schedule for you today. Phone calls in the parking lot, things happening with your office. So we'll get through this because we've got a great organization to talk about and a fun fundraiser that we want you to attend. We're going to tell you all about it in just a minute. But Al's Steakhouse, they're our host today. We want to thank them. A great place. May I just personally invite you to come on down here for lunch or dinner, whether it's a business lunch, whether it's a family getting together, whether it's something special. I always enjoy they have the Friday seafood buffets, the Sunday buffet has always been, this is the iconic restaurant. You bring somebody from out of town, you want to know where to go, Al's Steakhouse, Amos and Jefferson, and it's our place for these profile shows as well. So there you go. Okay, sir, so how do you keep yourself in the shape that you're in? Drinking Starbucks coffee.
No, I've, ever since I went to the University of Illinois, took a PE course freshman year, been basically had a routine, exercise routine, and I've always enjoyed it. So
you heard it here first. The only person in the country, in Will County, in the USA, who actually enjoys working out. Because you and I have worked out, right? And we do it for what, two weeks maybe? A couple of you for 2 days? And Dick Schuster and his wife have been working out since, when is that, 1952, Dick? Somewhere in that territory? And they do work out every week. All right, well, we have a fun thing to talk about here, and it's Men Who Cook. I was sitting at the Great American Bagel, yesterday actually. Of course, yesterday was not yesterday to you because we're doing this on the, whatever date today is, the 11th of March, I think it is. And you'll be seeing this somewhere in the week prior to Men Who Cook. He has signs all over the place about Men Who Cook. And just for a moment, I want to talk about Tom Grudowski, because as you can see right here, the Mokina Fire Department, is he going to be back cooking again this year?
Yes.
He is, okay. So Tom, watch this, because the Mokina Fire District is quite concerned with your cooking prowess. You don't cook, do you? You actually cook?
Give me a microwave and I'm ready.
All right, you and I, we're right there. I learned that you can microwave eggs in a soup cup.
Okay.
You put a little napkin over that thing there, you put it in for about 40 seconds, boom, you get nice eggs, flip that over with your pre-baked bacon.
Yes.
And you're in great shape. That's what I would do.
Yeah, just don't have to cover your food with tinfoil. That's
yeah, that's the 4th of July event. Tell me a little bit about Men Who Cook, just briefly, and then we're going to go through some details on Men Who Cook.
Okay. Well, the concept, this is our 8th annual, and it's been fantastic. And, there's, you've been at events, Dick, where, if you're tasting good food, what do you want to do? You want to tell somebody how good it is.
Yeah.
And, we have 50 different items on display, from desserts to entrees to the whole gamut. And I've never seen a fundraiser where people talk to people they don't know. Usually you come with your coterie, you sit at your table, we go through the motions, and you leave. And this one, there's 400, 500 people, and you might wind up talking to half of them. And I've always felt compelled, if I'm eating something really good, hey man, you got to try this. It's right over there, or whatever. And the cooks enjoy it. And I think that's a unique thing too, that people normally have not been in a place where a private person is acting like a commercial restaurant.
Yeah.
And many of these men are closet cooks. They are really, really good. You get the guys that are dicing up the garnish right at the last minute and putting it on because that's what the recipe calls for, and they're doing it to the T. They take great pride in what they're doing. Of course, Grotowski, he's won so many times. He's got a big head, and but you know he had his little side business. He had a home chef business.
Yeah, sure.
And you know he put on a good spread for people, and so he's really got a lot of pride in what he does when he cooks.
Yeah. Well, it is a fundraiser, and we're going to get more into men who cook and what happens on that day and when it's going to take place. As a matter of fact, we're going to put that on there because I know some of you watch, you know, for 10 minutes and you're gone and come back and forth. So I don't want you to miss this. The information, for more information, you're going to go up and is there a website, phone number, email, something that they can contact folks with?
Yes. Can we give you a crawler?
Yeah, sure.
Lisa will get it for you.
Okay, it's going to be right up there, and Lisa is drawing it right now. She's over there on table 3, and she's doing it. You'll get it in a minute. I know this answer, but let's do it for the folks who don't. What is the Will County Children's Advocacy Center?
Well, I was a prosecutor in the 80s, and one of the most difficult cases you could get was a child sexual abuse case because we didn't have a very sophisticated investigation method, and many times a child would make an outcry, and an untrained officer would interview her, he or her, and then the hospital, the nurse would interview, the doctor would interview, then a DCFS worker would be called out and doing it, and could be 3, 4, 5 different statements. They're not all going to be the same.
Right.
That's child psychology, and so when I came into office in 1992, Jim Ryan, the former Attorney General, had written legislation in 1988 opening the door for counties to create a child advocacy center in their county. But it wasn't an unfunded mandate. It only required that you have a board, not that you have a center. So you had to have a board and have a plan, but not a center. So we really didn't have either. So we set out on the task of trying to open it without going to referendum. Because back then there were so many referenda on the ballot, we just thought it would not be feasible. Plus trying to describe that, in a little paragraph to people and really get across what it does. So we got Silver Cross Hospital in St. Joe's to come on board in 1995, and then DCFS had a grant, and we opened the doors, and we've been funding it with private and public grants ever since, and fundraising. Excuse me. So this Men Who Cook came along, and it turned out just to be a blockbuster. It got bigger and bigger every year, and I think it was our second or third year. The facility we were in couldn't handle it, and we were blowing fuses left and right.
Was that Bolingbrook, wasn't it?
I don't want to say the name of the
No,
hall.
you said Bolingbrook.
No, it wasn't Bolingbrook. It was in Joliet. But
okay.
And so we had the bright idea of going to the electricians hall the next year, so that if we did blow a fuse, we'd have a professional on
Right.
site. And then we got so big that we got a hold of the pipe fitters, and they've got that huge facility out on I-80 in Mokina. Plus, I thought, we always tend to do so much stuff just in Joliet. This is a huge county, and if we want to draw people from all over the county, I thought a more central location would be a better idea, and it's worked out really well.
Yeah, that's a great
Yes.
location. And just an aside, as you attorneys would say, a little codicil on that. I have mentioned this, I don't know how many times, about some kids going to college and the need for kids to go to trade school. And I will tell you what, they've got an educational program there that's second to none. And if you want to have the awe experience, you visit the Pipe Fitters Hall because it's really unbelievable. It's a great place for your fundraiser, but it's also a great facility for teaching and for future for those pipe fitters. Let's get a little specific if we could, because I know some of the folks have just joined us again. What services are provided by the center, and where is the center, by the way? Where is it located?
It's in the EMCO building. It's downtown, right across the corner from the courthouse.
Yeah.
Right now, it's on the 4th floor. It's in a floating position right now because you may have read we're remodeling the EMCO building to accommodate my entire office, except for the juvenile division. So it's not the final resting place, and we're actively looking to move the center to an actual home, a residence type home, so that when the child arrives and enters the building, they think they're going into a house.
Right.
And that,
what a great idea.
Because right now, I'll never forget one of the people that works at the center. The young child came in and said, "Are you the doctor?" Because they come into a building like that, it's clinical, it's cold, So, and I guess that's the opening the door for Jackson, our Wonder Dog,
Oh,
who
yeah,
is,
sure.
again, brings down the stress level. We had a parent who was very upset when she came in, and she was sitting in the chair petting Jackson. And after about 5 minutes, she just stopped and looked at everyone and said, I can just feel the stress leaving my body, with the dog. I mean, it's
Sure.
just, and anyone who has a pet understands that.
Yeah.
The unconditional love that your pets have for you, and they just want to please you, and they're loving. They don't they don't criticize you.
That's right.
So,
That's why you own dogs, right?
but you know, the house would be the optimum, but what the center does, we've got a protocol that's signed by every police chief in the county, so that when an outcry of child sexual abuse is made, the outcry is recorded, but no further interview is done. And then the child is scheduled usually within 24 hours to come to the center for an interview. And the interview is done by a highly trained forensic interviewer. And we have an assistant state's attorney, a DCFS worker, and the investigator in another room monitoring the interview.
Yeah.
And we have a new digital system that was just put in, so we don't have a two-way mirror anymore. And I think kids are too sharp today. They see a mirror like that, and they know somebody's on the other. Yeah, the Wizard of Oz is on the other side. And there was also an issue with carryover of voices. So now they're in a completely separate room, and we have high-tech 4K and digital microphones. And so there's also two-way radio communication with the interviewer from the people in the other room, so that they can, after the initial part of the interview where the interviewer gets the confidence of the child without mentioning anything about any sexual implication whatsoever, because the moment you do that, the moment you say, when did he touch you there, you've destroyed the interview. You've made a suggestion to a child, which a child psychologist would testify, well, they're going to walk down the path you led them to.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. You've got to just draw it out from them by talking around it. But sometimes because the interviews come fast and furious, the interviewer doesn't always have time to be completely brought up to speed on every detail. And of course, when we go into the courtroom, we got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So my assistant state's attorney is there for that purpose. We have the officer there who has a comprehensive knowledge of the entire factual investigation, and then a DCFS worker is also involved with the facts and circumstances and the social aspects. So we get as thorough an interview as we could possibly get, and we videotape it. And if the probable cause is determined, then we proceed. But those videotaped interviews, it's amazing how many pleas of guilty we get as a result of that, because a defense attorney does not want to go in and have to cross-examine a young child about this sensitive issue in front of either a judge or a jury.
And it's here in Will County. Do all the counties in the Chicagoland area, do they have this kind of a center?
Yes, pretty much all the, if they're small and they don't have the economy of scale, usually counties will co-opt together.
Okay. When
we opened our center in 1995, I called Grundy County and Kendall County and offered the use of our center to them, because I thought, there's going to be cases in those counties and they're going to get mishandled just like ours were. Why not open the door? We had the capacity at that point to absorb them, and they only brought us 10 or 20 cases a year. But then they had the full advantage of the non-suggestive interview, which would be a much more compelling case.
It's still the case today? They still use
No,
this?
both of them gradually. I think Kendall went first and opened their own center, and then Grundy also has theirs.
Okay, good. We're talking with the Will County State's Attorney Jim Glasgow, and get a little background on the fundraiser Men Who Cook. I will also, on the air here, ask if we can do a future. I know you've done some great seminars for the public on the heroin epidemic here in Will County. I was watching an ABC special with Muir, where it's not obviously just here in Will County, it's all over the country. The big question is why, and so I would like to explore that with you in the not too distant future, probably sometime in April we can. By the way, I was listening to, what is that local station, WJOL this morning, and you're on some kind of show with a bunch of women, my good friends, and I hear they're going to be, now how does this work out? I mean, it's men who cook. What are these women doing at the front door with a red carpet? With what do they do? What are they up to?
Well, you know, Lynn, Mary, and Natalie, they're like the Three Stooges. They can.
No, you said that.
Well,
I did not say that.
When they mentioned on the air today the time that they got gray wigs and mustaches,
Oh, yeah.
and came out, you know, I guess I should be flattered, but like I told them, one of them looked like Groucho Marx. So, but they can get anybody to talk, and you know, we've got a red carpet there, and just about anybody that comes in, they try to pull them over for an interview.
Yeah.
And you know, they can interview a post and make it interesting.
Yes, they can. Great. You know, I've never been on that in that studio with them in all the years they've done these shows.
Really?
Oh, I'm scared that.
Well, you don't want to do it.
Oh, I'm scared. You know, they would just. You know what you would do to me. Now. Do you know, aside from Tom Grotowski, any of the regulars who will come back and kind of compete and knock him off?
Yeah, I think Lisa said something close to 85-90% of last year's cooks are coming back.
And how many is that? How many cooks?
We have about 50.
50 of them?
And Dick, the really neat thing about this fundraiser, and you know, whenever you have a fundraiser, expenses are always an issue. And the beauty of this is they bring the food. Not only do they cook it,
right.
but if we had to buy all that food, it would cut our profits in half.
Yeah.
And so that is just amazing. So we have all these donors. Every cook is a donor, a huge donor. I mean, some of these people spend $500 on the food they bring.
Yeah.
I mean, if we did that, we wouldn't make a dime. And so that's a phenomenal aspect of this, where you've got 50 people making the sacrifice every year. It's a big nut to crack in today's economy, $500. So,
Sure.
And then they give their time, but they have so much fun doing it. I think that, you know, it's kind of like a fun tax for them.
Yeah. How long has it been around? Did you mention it?
This is the 8th year.
This is the 8th
Yes.
year? And it's at the Pipe Fitters Hall. We'll give you that address. Location will be up on the screen for you. Men Who Cook. We know there's 50 cooks. And I'm about to get you in trouble here again because everyone wants to know what's your favorite of all those cooks.
Can't go there, Dick.
You know what? You have to come to the fundraiser to find out, because you can follow him around and see where he's at.
Ironically, I rarely get to eat much of anything because I wind up bumping into people and start talking.
Yeah.
And so I probably only have had a half a dozen samples at each one of these events because I'm talking to so many people.
Well, part of the contract should be any leftovers are packed up in aluminium.
Yeah, but there aren't any. There
aren't
aren't any.
Not many
you know, some
leftovers.
of them are. I remember Tom one time, Grotowski, he sent his assistant out to buy more beef so that he wouldn't run out. I mean, it was flying off his table, and you know, so.
Is there, as you're walking around, you're talking to people are talking to you, you're meeting and greeting and having a great time there. Any particular memory stand out over those 8 years?
Well, sometimes there's the parents of a victim that come up, and you know, they're very thankful for what the center did for them and their family, their children, and that's all the reward you need when that happens. Yeah. You know, you mentioned the heroin problem, and I've had a number of the heroin addicts come up to me after the graduation and literally say, I wouldn't be standing here if it weren't for this court. Yeah. So that's really the goal. And you know, this particular center, now that we have the High Tech Crimes Unit, where we work with Lisa Madigan's Illinois Crimes Against Children Unit. We have a licensing through them, and we have the ability to track the child pornography on the internet, and we see where it goes. And we've made over 80 arrests in the last 2 years with this unit. And in 40% of the cases, there was a molestation indicated. So, but there are times where we'll go into a house on a search warrant, and there'll be children there, and we can take those children, Dick, to the center and interview them, and they don't even know why they're being interviewed. So if there's no issue, there's an interview done, and they leave.
It's just a conversation.
Yes, and it's just a conversation. Yeah. But if we don't do it, we could be leaving a child who's undergoing this tragedy back with the abuser.
Yeah. Almost on a weekly basis, we're getting a little off track here, but almost on a weekly basis, you read the Herald News, you listen to Chicago radio or WJOL, almost on a weekly basis there's a case coming up of child pornography or molestation, and it's the worst case, one of the worst cases is when it's a teacher, somebody in authority that takes advantage of a child. So we'll talk more about that in an upcoming show. How many people attend this? Get down there to the pipe pit?
We're up to 400 to 500
Good.
attendees.
Good.
Yeah, it's amazing. The place is packed at about midway through, and it's hard to move around. But and that's another thing. If you go to a table that's a hot table, you got to stand in line sometimes. So, but that's a good thing.
That's a good
that's
thing.
a problem you want to
It's
have.
well worth standing in line. And those of you who are watching, I want you to let your neighbors and your friends know about this event. It's happening. When does it take place? What's the date and what's the time?
April 2nd and 6 o'clock, and it's at the Pipe Fitters Hall on I-80. And again, the Pipe Fitters have been such a fabulous host for us. They donated the facility. They have some of their apprentices there to do the heavy lifting for us. I can't say enough about that. Yeah. So if we had to hire people to do that, it would, again, cut into those profits.
That place is so big. If it wasn't the equipment inside there, you could land a plane inside that Pipe Fitters Hall.
You're right.
All right. Well, I've got most of my questions. I guess I'm going to lean over here to our producer and director, Lisa Lass. Do we need to make an appeal? Because this show is just before April 2nd. Do we still need some cooks? No. So we're all set with cooks. What we need is for you to tell your neighbors, your friends, to come on out to this fundraiser. It is a family-friendly thing. You can bring your kids with you.
Jackson the Wonder Dog will be there. And we may have a new addition. Sherry Johnson is going to St. Louis this Sunday for a week. There's a school that trains facility dogs, and they're going to give us a dog, but we have to send Sherry, and Jeff Brown is one of my assistants. He's going to go with her because he has to be the backup. And so we will have a facility dog who's a little more mellow than Jackson. Jackson was trained to be a leader dog for the blind, but he likes squirrels. So it wasn't going to be very safe.
I remember that story.
Yeah, so... And he's a great dog, but he's a little more active. And so if we're going to use the dog in court, they have to be completely disciplined so they won't move. And so we might have 2 dogs.
All right. Well, Jackson's enough, but if you have 2 dogs, that's great. And by the way, I just want to say this. Sherry, thank you for, we've met Jackson on several occasions, and thank you so very much to the Johnsons for their leadership in this area. She works with you in your office.
But Jackson doesn't get paid.
Well, but he does get paid. He does get paid. He gets a lot of extra pats, and probably some really good food comes his way. Lisa Lass has been holding up the teleprompter cards and directing us here. Have we forgotten anything? As we get to toward the end of this interview here about Men Who Cook and a little bit about, we've just scratched the surface, by the way, on the Children's Advocacy Center here in Will County, and we're going to do more on the heroin issue here in Will County as well. But I've often wondered, when you collect some cars, you collect some equipment, you collect some money from some of our not so fine citizens of Will County, where does that money go? And I think there was something with Channel 6 here a few weeks ago about a van. Can you let me open the door on that one for me?
Yes. About 8 years ago, I bought a bus for the Veterans Assistance Commission, and that was my first foray into using money that I seized from criminals to help out local agencies. They needed a bigger bus to get the veterans to Hines Hospital. And believe it or not, John Bays gave us a tip that there was a guy down in Florida that overbought these buses for hotels, and he had an $85,000 bus for $65,000. So we were able to buy that, bring it up, retrofit it, and for the past 8 years they've been taking the veterans to Hines Hospital. And then recently, Christy McNichol, who's the new director there, and she's a dynamo. I don't know if you've met her yet, but you needed to do a show with her. She just changed the whole landscape at the Veterans Assistance Commission. But I partnered with her. She had about $18,000 in her budget, but she needed a 15-passenger van to run locally to the new Silver Cross facility. and they didn't have anyone with the proper license necessary to drive the bigger van, and that would be an additional cost she didn't have in her budget. So we've got this 15-passenger van now, and Terry Darcy stepped up and got the thing wrapped, so it really stands out.
I think I've seen that on the road.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Terry partnered with me also with the Spanish Center and with the Forest Park Center. We got vans for those facilities also, and so Terry's been unbelievable in that regard.
He carries on the Darcy tradition.
Yeah.
I mean, John and Jeanette were good parents for those Darcy kids. Thank you so much, Terry. And by the way, thank you to the Berglunds also. They're step-up sponsors for Men Who Cook as well. And I hope you've gotten a little bit of information that we want you to come on April 2nd, Men Who Cook, Pipefitters Hall. Take I-80 out and go east. You can't miss it. It's huge. It's gigantic. What's the exit to get off of? You remember that? I kind of missed that one.
It's LaGrange Road.
LaGrange Road, okay. We take LaGrange Road, and you're there. It's a right-hand turn.
And we're going to have more signage on the pathway
as
this
you get
time.
there.
Yeah, it'll be idiot-proof. So
okay, I can find my way there. Thank you so much for visiting with us for a little while. We're here at Al's Steakhouse with our Will County State's Attorney, Jim Glasgow. Thank you for stopping by. Take care.